Get ready to dive deeper in part 3 of our series. To maximize your enjoyment, consider checking out part 1 and part 2 first, see links in the description. Let's continue the adventure.
Scary camping videos caught on camera. 3-part series. Part 3, The Broken Ritual. The chilling comment on our Blackwood Whispers answered video gnawed at me like a persistent rat. You may have appeased Amelia, it read, but the forest holds more secrets than just one restless soul. It had shaken our sense of accomplishment, leaving a nagging suspicion that the whispers had silenced by appeasing Amelia might have been just the beginning. Sleep became a battlefield. Nightmares filled with shadowy figures and guttural growls plagued me, making me dread the coming weekend, our planned return to Blackwood Forest. This time, however, it wasn't about seeking thrills or proving the existence of the paranormal. This time, a cold knot of dread settled in my stomach as we piled into Hazel's beat-up car, the ever-present forest looming on the horizon. We had decided to investigate the more secrets the ominous comment hinted at. Days of frantic research had yielded a single lead, a cryptic woodcut found in the local library's archives. It depicted a twisted, skeletal tree standing alone amidst a clearing, its roots seemingly reaching out like grasping claws. Beneath the tree, barely discernible, were symbols that resembled those found on the cabin wall during our previous encounter. The drive to Blackwood Forest was filled with a tense silence. The woods seemed darker this time, the oppressive quiet broken only by the rhythmic hum of the car engine. As we reached the familiar clearing where we camped before, a sense of foreboding washed over us. Leaving the car behind, we followed a barely visible trail leading deeper into the woods, the woodcut serving as our map. The air grew colder, damp and heavy. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy of ancient trees, casting long, skeletal shadows on the forest floor. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent shivers down our spines. The silence was suffocating, punctuated only by the unsettling chirping of unseen insects. After what felt like an eternity, we stumbled upon it, the gnarled, misshapen tree from the woodcut. It stood alone, its bark cracked and peeling, its skeletal branches reaching out like twisted claws. The air around it crackled with an unseen energy, sending a cold tremor running down my spine. This was the heart of whatever darkness lingered within the forest. As we cautiously approached the tree, Hazel, usually the voice of reason, let out a gasp. Etched into the gnarled trunk, just below the strange symbols, was a recent inscription, 5 names, followed by the date 1899. A cold dread washed over me. Were these the names of the miners trapped in the cave-in we had read about? Had their restless spirits been trapped here all this time? Suddenly, a gust of wind whipped through the clearing, sending a chill deeper than the cool air. The leaves on the twisted tree began to rustle violently, and a low growl, guttural and primal, echoed through the woods. We froze, hearts pounding in our chests, as the shadows beneath the tree seemed to writhe and contort. Fear threatened to paralyze us, but a primal instinct for survival urged us to run. We turned and fled back towards the trail, the guttural growls echoing behind us. The forest seemed to close in around us, the trees reaching out like skeletal fingers, hindering our escape. Panting and stumbling, we finally reached the clearing where we had left the car. Just as we slammed the doors shut, a figure emerged from the woods, bathed in the fading sunlight. It wasn't human. Tall and emaciated, its form resembled a mangled skeleton encased in tattered brown robes. Glowing red eyes burned within the empty sockets of its skull, and its skeletal jaws stretched into a grotesque grin, revealing rows of jagged teeth. A putrid stench filled the air, making me gag. Panic flooded my senses as this horrifying creature let out a blood-curdling scream, the sound echoing through the forest and sending shivers down my spine. We didn't waste time arguing. Hazel roared the engine to life, and we peeled out of the clearing, leaving the horrifying creature and the secrets of the twisted tree behind. The drive back was a blur of adrenaline and fear. We couldn't speak, the image of the skeletal creature burned into our minds. Back in the safety of our dorm room, the horrifying encounter felt unreal, a shared nightmare we couldn't quite shake off. Sammy, ever the techie, finally broke the silence. He had managed to capture a few seconds of blurry footage on his phone as we fled the clearing. It showed the twisted tree and a fleeting glimpse of the skeletal creature, its red eyes glowing like embers in the fading light. The decision to upload the video was unanimous. We knew we couldn't keep this a secret. The internet exploded again. This time, there were no skeptics. The footage, blurry as it was undeniable proof of a malevolent entity residing within the dark heart of Blackwood Forest. The video was titled simply, Blackwood Whispers, The Wendigo. The name came from Hazel, who remembered a Native American legend she had read about, a monstrous creature driven mad by a hunger for human flesh. The news picked up on the story. Blackwood Forest became a national sensation, attracting paranormal investigators, thrill seekers, and tourists alike. The town nearby saw a sudden influx of visitors, some hoping to catch a glimpse of the Wendigo, others simply morbidly curious. We, however, became instant pariahs. Local authorities chastised us for disturbing the forest and attracting unwanted attention, while a vocal minority accused us of fabricating the videos for fame. The stress gnawed at us. The terrifying encounter had left its mark. Hazel developed insomnia, constantly haunted by nightmares of the skeletal creature. Maya, once fearless, became skittish and jumpy, afraid of shadows and strange noises. Even Sammy, who prided himself on logic, became obsessed with researching the Wendigo legend, his usual light-hearted banter replaced by a brooding silence. One evening, while scrolling through a paranormal forum, I stumbled upon a message that sent a jolt of fear through me. It was from a user claiming to be a descendant of the Native American tribe that inhabited the area before the arrival of settlers. The message was cryptic but chilling. It warned us that we had disturbed a powerful evil, a force older than the forest itself, and that appeasing Amelia might have inadvertently released it. The message contained a ritual, a desperate plea to trap the Wendigo back within the twisted tree. Fear battled with a sense of responsibility. We had unleashed this horror, and we felt obligated to try and contain it. Despite Hazel's initial resistance, haunted by the prospect of returning to the forest, we began gathering the necessary items for the ritual: sage, salt, and a ceremonial knife. The next weekend, we found ourselves back on the familiar road leading to Blackwood Forest. This time, the drive was cloaked in a heavy silence. As we neared the clearing where the twisted tree stood, the air grew thick and oppressive. We parked the car, a shared dread hanging over us like a shroud. Following the instructions from the forum message, we apprehensively approached the tree. The air crackled with a malevolent energy, and the temperature dropped several degrees. As we began the ritual, chanting the words from the message, the forest seemed to hold its breath. Then, the ground began to tremble, and a low growl, deeper and more primal than anything we had heard before, echoed through the woods. The wind picked up, whipping through the clearing and sending leaves swirling into a frenzy. Branches snapped from unseen forces, and the shadows beneath the tree seemed to writhe and contort. Fear threatened to paralyze us, but we pressed on, chanting the words louder, our voices barely audible over the howling wind. Suddenly, a dark shape emerged from beneath the tree, its form taller and more monstrous than we remembered. The glowing red eyes burned into us, filled with an insatiable hunger. Panic surged through me, but then, Hazel stepped forward, her voice surprisingly steady. "We didn't mean to disturb you," she shouted over the wind, her voice filled with a desperate hope. "We just want to help you find peace." The Wendigo paused, its red eyes flicking from Hazel to each of us. Then, In a raspy voice that echoed through the clearing, it spoke. Peace? There is no peace for me. The voice was filled with a profound sorrow, a despair that echoed down the ages. A gasp escaped Maya's lips. This wasn't a mindless monster, but a creature driven mad by an ancient curse. Suddenly, the words from the ritual came back to me. The Wendigo needed an offering, a sacrifice to break the curse that bound it to the forest. We had nothing to offer, nothing except myself. A desperate plan formed in my mind. As the Wendigo's growl rumbled again, I stepped forward, extending my hand. Take my fear, I shouted, my voice clear and strong. Take the terror you instilled in us, and use it to find peace. A shocked silence descended upon the clearing. The Wendigo stared at my outstretched hand, its red eyes flickering with confusion. Then, slowly, cautiously, it reached out with a skeletal hand and touched mine. A rush of cold energy surged through me, a torrent of terror and fear leaving my body like a receding tide. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a brilliant white light erupted from the point of contact. The Wendigo shrieked, a sound of pure agony that echoed through the woods. The light intensified, blindingly bright, and the creature seemed to shrink with every passing second. Then, with a final ear-splitting shriek, the light vanished, leaving behind only silence. The twisted tree stood before us, its branches still, the air calm and quiet. Exhausted and shaken, we approached the gnarled trunk. There was nothing to indicate what had transpired. No skeletal creature, no red eyes, just the silent forest bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. A wave of relief washed over me, quickly followed by a chilling uncertainty. Had it worked? Or had we just unleashed something far worse? The answer came as a faint sound, a whisper carried on the wind. Thank you. The voice, filled with a melancholic peace, sent shivers down my spine. It was the Wendigo, its voice barely audible, a whisper on the breeze. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. We stood there for a long time, the silence broken only by the chirping of crickets. Finally, with a shaky breath, Hazel spoke. Do you think it's really over? We exchanged nervous glances. There was no way to know for sure. The legend of Blackwood Forest remained, shrouded in mystery. We had faced a terrifying entity, performed a desperate ritual, and emerged, seemingly, unscathed. A sense of closure settled over us, mixed with a lingering fear. We wouldn't return to Blackwood Forest. The secrets of the twisted tree and the malevolent entity it housed would remain buried deep within the darkness. We had learned a harsh lesson. Some things in the world were best left undisturbed. As we clambered back into the car, casting a final glance at the silent clearing, a decision hung unspoken in the air. We deleted the Blackwood Whispers, the Wendigo video. The world didn't need to know about the horror we encountered. Some experiences were best kept between us, a chilling reminder of the night we faced the Wendigo in Blackwood Forest. Life returned to a semblance of normalcy. But the forest left its mark. We became more cautious, less likely to seek out thrills in remote locations. The unsettling whispers, the chilling encounter with Amelia, and the terrifying confrontation with the Wendigo had permanently altered our perception of the world. The veil between reality and the unknown had been lifted, offering a glimpse into the darkness that lurked just beyond the fringes of the familiar. One night, months later, while browsing an online forum dedicated to the paranormal, a familiar title caught my eye, Blackwood Whispers, Solved? My heart pounded as I clicked on the link. The thread contained a single grainy image, a screenshot from a security camera of a local gas station. The date matched the night we performed the ritual. In the blurry picture, a shadowy figure stood at the edge of the frame, tall and gaunt, its eyes gleaming faintly. Below the image, a single line of text read, "Thank you for the peace. Not all shadows are meant to be chased away." A cold shiver ran down my spine. We had escaped the clutches of Blackwood Forest, but the forest, it seemed, would never truly leave us.